I want to talk today a little bit about continuous content updates with Kafka. And, well, the presenters before me showed something live and something they did and something which is production ready. This is not production ready at all. This is just a POC. This was just, let's play around with Kafka and see how we can integrate it with AEM, how hard it is. And then I also thought, when we have a Kafka integration, what can we do with that? I know that in the Sling project, there were a year ago or a little bit more, there was the thing about this message-oriented middleware, which is, sounded a little bit ambitious. And I just want to say, okay, I just want to be able at one point to send something to Kafka and, let's see what we can do with that. Because I think in many cases, we require integration of our AEM instance to some backend system, which typically they provide data to us. And in the past, we had one way for that. And in many cases also, people just think, okay, we throw everything at the website, and the website is the end of your pipeline. Everything is on the website, and the website is, it's not talking to anyone else. It's not creating data or creating content. Most cases, there is no feedback channel from the website to other systems. Besides, sending an email for form submission or, sending out analytics data, yes. But many cases, it could be interested to get data back from AEM to somewhere else. So when we do content exchange between AEM and some other systems, when we import data, the typical approach I've seen is that we import data via a scheduled job. Scheduled job means, okay, Sling scheduler, then we do some HTTP request, download something to a local file in the file system, unpack it, parse it, and do something with it. With exports, it's even worse. Okay, we tell everyone, okay, just call a URL on our site. We render the data as you need it, and then you can do the data whatever you want, and then the data stays inside AEM, and it grows, and you never purge it because you never know if someone has actually read it. So maybe you start at one point, okay, let's purge data older than 60 days. But in many cases, you have the data inside AEM, you know others might use it, but you don't know how long you have to have it in the repository. But essentially, AEM itself cannot do anything with it. So I played around with Kafka and tried to address some of these things. And Kafka, in case you don't know it, I don't mix it up with Karaf. It sounds a little bit the same way, but it's something completely different. It's also an Apache project, but it's about data streaming pipelines. But a little bit more publish-subscribe pattern. It means that you can subscribe to a channel and receive everything which is posted to that channel. Or you can post data to a channel, and everyone who is subscribed to that channel can read that data. It's already out there in the wild for some years, and it's scalable and production proven, so it's nothing we need to care about from a point of scaling or performance. So the features when you get data into AEM via Kafka, first thing is you have real-time ingestion. That means, okay, you do not pull periodic imports of your whatever data, PIM data, every 60 minutes. You import data, and then you process it and import it and leave it in the repository, and 60 minutes afterwards, okay, the next import, with all the stuff which comes to mind. Okay, what if the import fails? What if it takes longer than 60 minutes? Or if I really need to push some urgent update which cannot wait 60 minutes. With Kafka, you get everything in real time, kind of. As soon as someone writes it to the queue, it's distributed to the queue, and you can consume it from the queue. And it's asynchronous. So in case your AEM is down, well, it is down, and when it comes up, it consumes all the data for it, which is stored in the queue. Another nice thing is that you can read typed data from it. You can use whatever serialization libraries out there. I've seen tutorials for Avro, for Creo, and Jackson. Probably there are more out there. And it's quite easy to use. For my POC, I just used simple string serializer, because I encountered some problems with class loading issues when I want to use that, and I didn't want to spend so much time on it. And the ingestion is as simple as reading from a simple queue, and I'll show you later on how simple it can be. And everyone who is contributing data into this queue, just write it to that queue. So you don't need to iterate through multiple endpoints to get your data, but you just read from a simple queue, and everyone who creates that data is just writing to that queue. Same with data feedback. You just write to a queue. That's simple. And what can you do right back? You can write back logs. Well, not a big deal. We have Splunk and stuff like that. So logs is sometimes not the most obvious thing, but I think of audit information. If you're working with a restricted business, FSI or whatever, where you need to keep track of every change, typically AEM stores audit logs either on disk or in the repository. And in the end, who is doing the audit log? Reports in AEM? Have anyone ever used that? The audit log entries? I think in most cases when you come around audit log is about purging audit logs because it's getting too large. Why do we store it in AEM already? Normally you're not interested in the data in AEM, but you want to record this information and store it in some archive. Here with Kafka, you can just write audit logs back to a queue and then fire and forget. It's not the business of AEM to keep that audit data for 30 days, 60 days, forever. Not at all. Same with content. Content UGC form submission. Just UGC, perfect example. Content created on publish. What do we do today? Yeah, reverse replication to author and to the publish, or Sling distribution. Each publish talking to each other publish. Why? A publish could submit it to a queue and every other publish is reading from the same queue. And if you want to be really ambitious, think about replication. Why does an author need to know every publish? The IP address and the host name of every publish. Why does it need to know how many publish there are at all? You could just write your content to a queue. All publishers are pulling from it. That's it. If a publish is down for a time, well, yeah, when it comes up, it continues to read its portion from the queue. And you can also do not replicate also only to production publish. Your production author could replicate to UAT, staging, integration environments as well. Or you can store these packages to disk for audit reasons, restore reasons, I don't know. So there are many, many use cases where I think such a queuing mechanism would really make sense to have it in the AEM world. Okay, that's my little POC. It's, I think, basically 5 classes. And in most cases, it's this abstract consumer, abstract producer. And then I have a consumer manager because this thing has to run asynchronously. That's my simple consumer. It reads data from a queue. The queue is configured via OSGI, but here, this is the data, the types it reads from the queue. It's a key value, so it's a string is a key and the value is a string. We're typically mostly interested in the value, and we just need to get that through until at one point we come to the payload. We read the payload from the queue, that's a string, and now we can do whatever we like to do with it. This is, I think the whole class is 50 lines of code, and the abstract class is, well, maybe 100, not more. But it's really, really simple to do that. For the demo use case, I'd made some problems this morning when I tested it again, so I just think you need to rely on some screenshots and you need to believe me here. Otherwise, we will probably exceed the 15 minutes. This is my JSON. I just feed into that, and there is some nice console producer which just reads from standard in, and I just feed in that string, post it to this topic, to this queue, test data, and this is the information where it gets the information about where it is, and in the end, it can be as easily here. I create pages here, for example. This is very simple use case while creating pages. Here, Kafka news, and I have here this in user ID welcome. I translate it to the name, and well, I could create a really page with headline, with text, with author, with whatever data. And it's a latency. I think in my test case it was latency about 1 or 2 seconds. Well, production might be a little bit higher, but in most cases it's really acceptable. Push data to that. Maybe you have a social media integration platform which fetches Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever platform, and writes everything to such a queue. And then your website, you can say, okay, yeah, we want to display the latest company Twitter feed on the website. And then I implemented some simple auditing. Well, it's just here code. It's actually the producer, which I attach to a event listener in AEM, and it just receives events and writes events to the queue. And this is some simple consumer which just prints out to the command line, to the terminal, and there I just translated the page events and serialized it in JSON. So here I got the information page created by the user admin, and that's the page. Well, it likes timestamp, okay, but that's an audit listener. About 150 lines. We could remove the AEM standard listener for var audit and replace it with that. Would, well, keep your repository growth a little bit controlled if we could implement that. So, but the problem is, of course, Kafka itself. Kafka is not a really trivial thing. To install it high available, it has to be 3 nodes. You have to install Zookeeper. It's not that easy. So in most cases, when you are on an AEM project, you cannot say, okay, we want to have Kafka. Please install Kafka for us. We want to use it. It sounds great, solves a lot of problems. Many cases, it's not possible. To be honest, I haven't been on a project where we had Kafka available. And that's the reason why I wanted to do the POC. I wanted to play with it. So my recommendation to you is, well, it's not hard to use it. From an implementation point of view, it's easy. And it gives you so much chance to rethink your architecture and to get rid of some of the constraints you typically have in AEM. AEM might be only serving content, but it's not disconnected from the rest of the world, from the rest of the backend systems. You can just feed so much information back, And if you have that chance that you can easily transport data back to whatever backend system, archiving system, you hopefully think of it, and well, it will change your architecture, when you can use it and when you will use it, because this is only these cases. I think it's only the tip of the iceberg. I think you can do many things more with it. Okay, that's it. I'm Jörg Hoh. I'm working as a consultant for Adobe, and I'm mostly around here in Germany and solving the mostly interesting and sometimes boring issues customers have. Thanks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jörg.